This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. Well, don't forget to send us your PR Podcast plug. This is the no lift, easy lift, call it what you will, way that you can promote yourself and what you do. Now, as a PR person, I like to say that we're great at promoting our clients and horrible at promoting ourselves. And our guest and I just talked about that in the green room just a moment ago. It's true, right? We're lousy self-promoters because it's been drilled into us that we're not supposed to promote ourselves. We're supposed to promote the people who are paying us and the people we're working for. But here's a way to promote yourself. Now, we don't want to hear about the 9 to 5. We don't want to hear about the cool, hit that you got, even if it was really cool. We want to hear about the award you won. We want to hear about the book you wrote. We want to hear about your cool TikTok channel or your YouTube channel where you play the guitar or cook or I don't know what. You get the idea, right? Send us something fun that you do in your off hours. Let us promote you a little bit. Let us give you a little bit of love in the form of a PR podcast plug. We'll read it right here at the top of an upcoming show. Send it to me at Jody Fisher or at the PR Podcast on any of the socials. Just follow us, DM us. We'll follow you back because we're that way. And we will get you a PR Podcast plug at the top of an upcoming episode. Now on with our show today. I am personally excited by this. This is going to be so much fun. Kat Jones is founder of MotivPR, based in California. It's a global communications company that she created, and she reps such clients as Critical Role, Felicia, Titmouse Animation, Upright Citizens Brigade, Real Good Touring, E3, and the ESA, Blind Squirrel Games, and more. She was named one of the top PR pros in the industry by Business Insider 3 years in a row. And she's been extensively profiled in West Coast media. Now, she just returned from San Diego Comic-Con, fellow geek, here it comes, where she had a front row seat to some of the biggest pop culture news in the country right now. Kat, welcome to the PR Podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me. What an intro. Who is that person that you're talking about? When I hear that back, I'm like, that's not me. What are you talking about?
What? Well, all right. So elephant in the room. I am a super geek, like Star Wars, Marvels, New York Comic-Con fan. I go every year.
My people.
You just came back from San Diego Comic-Con where there was major news just in Marvel world, not to mention everywhere else. Let's talk about that first. And fellow geeks, come along for the ride here. Tell us about San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh my God, where do I start? So this was actually my 14th year. And in previous years, when I first went, it was through my time at Marvel, which was kind of eye-opening, right? Being able to work with that type of company in that space. Early days of, the first Iron Man, that kind of stuff. You were really feeling the energy of like the comic book fandom expanding past, what was previously seen as just this geek world into like more mainstream, but in a way that was exciting, right? In a way that was accepting of that community. And so I will say previous years, there were times in which I was like, it just didn't feel right. There were brands or companies that were really trying to shove themselves into the San Diego Comic-Con zeitgeist, because they saw such a big, a big community, and it just didn't, what they were trying to promote there, which just wasn't right. And I will say, it is back. Like, I was there for the first time in quite a few years. It really felt back to that, like the early times when they first announced, the first Avengers or something like that, when it was just that beating heart, that excitement, that palpable feeling was tangible, like everywhere you went. And yeah, I was there with a few clients, and I will say, the lead up, it's a lot of hard work. But then when you get there, for me, it turns into this like reunion of sorts. I get to see, past colleagues and friends and who are just thriving now and doing, it's like we just said, like fellow geeks, right? Like, these are my people. These are the people I can just meld my brain with, and we can just bounce things off of each other, and I get to see them and see how well they're doing. And then just the community there. Yes, you are shoulder to shoulder. Yes, you are bumping into people nonstop, but you look around and you see the excitement on everybody's face, and you're like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. I wouldn't have it any other way. So long story short, it was hugely successful. Yeah, it was exciting to see Marvel back in Hall H, doing what they do best, announcing the next two Avengers, the Deadpool stunt. They had like drones flying over the convention center after the Deadpool panel. It was it felt, like I said, like early days when Marvel really was starting to ramp up its studio side. It felt like that, and you could feel the excitement everywhere. So I think I mentioned this early. I have a bit of like a love-hate relationship with Comic-Con, only because it is a nonstop ramp up for like the 3 weeks leading up to it. It is nonstop while you're there, and then you get home and you're like, like you're like, okay, now I have
That is
to
a full
sleep
sentence, by the way.
Oh yeah. Now I have to sleep for 4 days, but it is so worth it. And then I get home after resting. I'm like, okay, what are we doing next year? What are we doing next year? And the best part about San Diego Comic-Con too is it's full of really creative ideas. You see things that people are doing, whether it's pop-up ideas, or on the street guerrilla marketing tactics, or just a slew of different experiences that, as someone who likes to really push the envelope and think of ways in which communities can engage with their favorite brands in a multitude of different ways, it's really inspiring. I come home and I just have a slew of ideas. I go to different clients and like, we should do this next year. We should do this next year. So it's one of my favorite events of the year, hands down. You know what? No, it's my favorite event of the year, hands down.
There you go. Now, you said you've never been to New York Comic-Con. I've never been to San Diego.
We'll
So
have to do a little switcheroo.
I'm feeling like a swap.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I'll be Jody at New York Comic-Con this year, and you could be Cat Jones at San Diego Comic-Con next year. How about that?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to fly as you, but
well, we'll give you a red wig. It's fine.
There you go. Wouldn't be the first time. But let's bring it back to the mission of the podcast here. You talk about Marvel, and the great job that you and I think that they did rolling out all their new movies and all the new announcements that they had, and literally right in the middle of the Deadpool and Wolverine movie drop.
Yeah.
Marvel is also a terrific case study in how to do announcements really well, because it's not just standing up on a stage and dropping a bomb and, going, "Ooh, wow," right? There's information, there's people, there's talking points, there's social media posts, there's video, there's all manner of communication stuff, right? That has to get created. Talk a little bit about that. If you've ever had an experience, perhaps maybe with one of your clients announcing something at a San Diego Comic-Con or anywhere else. I mean, what goes into making that moment that we end up seeing on TikTok?
Yeah. I mean, it really boils down to the fact that what worked in PR, and I'm going to say PR, but with this kind of caveat that like PR is now blending into all different areas of marketing, right? Like that's just the day and age we live in. And so traditional PR, where you either just, show up at a place and announce a thing, or you put out a press release, or 10 years ago, that might've worked, right? That might've been caught fire. And, you had news organizations that were like, well, this is what we do. We get these press releases and we write about it. Due to the mixture of social media, right? Information overload, the reporters and journalists and publications that formerly were kind of focusing on certain areas are now they're either being let go, unfortunately, or focusing on 700 different things at the same time. They're inundated, right? And so, the Marvel example is a great example of the way in which brands need to kind of think about how to be everywhere in the best possible way for their fans and boil it down to where are your fans? What are they most passionate about? And how do you deliver something to them that makes them feel like they're a part of that experience, right? Not just like, here's the thing, now go watch the movie. It's like, early day, like I think Deadpool did a great job too. They early on, they were really engaging with the audience about, okay, let's do, pop-up screenings where people show up in Deadpool outfits and socialize that. And so it's like different ways that people need to or that brands and companies and studios need to ensure that they're thinking about where the fans are, integrating the fans early on into those conversations, right? Because the advent of social media, you can actually like play around a little bit. It doesn't need to be a fully baked out marketing plan that, that then has to stick to a rigorous timeline and tactical like rollout. You can have that as someone who like loves strategies and rollouts. That's important. But this day and age, there's a lot of room for experimentation because you can engage with the fans, you can share these things, you can go full speed ahead on certain areas. And then if you get that feedback that's like, oh, this isn't working, this isn't fitting, you can quickly shift. You can quickly, turn directions and with the help of the fans. And honestly, I've been a part of certain scenarios where fans had a certain reaction and it wasn't great. And because of that, we share with them how much we appreciate their feedback, right? Like it's their feedback. And it's because sometimes, I've been a part of scenarios too, where they're like, oh, no, don't let the fans know, that we're taking what they say into consideration because we have to still be arm's length. And I've seen that not play out well. Like the moment that you are able to engage the fans, show them that you're listening, show them that you care about what they're saying and that you want to integrate them into the whole scope of like from start to finish to when the movie launches or the thing launches, like you're going to get a community then, right? That's not just like a one-off stunt. That's when you build a community around the thing you're doing. And then that creates a long-term opportunity for engagement.
Well, and that's a very reliable part of announcements like the ones that are made by Marvel at San Diego Comic-Con is the after the announcements where everybody chimes in on social media. Everybody loves it or hates it or makes videos about it or does TikToks about it. And then you've got actually, professional organizations, full-blown YouTube channels that are doing breakdowns of the announcement and what it could mean. And there's so much stuff that comes out of just the announcement that's made on stage that is unpredictable, that you both have to ride the wave and expect the wave of publicity that will come after that is completely non-traditional, right?
Yeah. And I will say that those moments, right? Like you said, for I think Fantastic Four, they did a stunt too where they had like a car fly in into Hall H, which was just like mind blowing. And they did a lot of Easter eggs, right? Like announcing Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, which was just like mind blowing. But then it's like, how do you?
I got my theories on that one, though. We'll have to talk about.
I know.
Yeah.
And by the way, your reaction, you saying that's exactly what Marvel wants. That's having this ongoing discussion after the fact is half the reason they do it. I mean, aside from Robert Downey Jr. being extremely talented and probably works really well with the Russo brothers, etc. But it's the lead up, it's the announcement, but you're right, it's the after effect of that. And then how does that brand or that company or that studio take advantage of that buzz in a way that makes it last as long as humanly possible, right? So there's different way, like it's keeping that drumbeat going within the fan base, dropping like continually dropping additional little hints or little things through news sources or through actors who are involved in the film or whatever. And that just keeps the momentum going in a way that then helps. I mean, Marvel's got it figured out. They're fine. But at least if you kind of look at different companies, it allows them to have even more insight into what the fan base wants, because it keeps the conversation going. And when the conversation continues to go, more information is shared. And then that information becomes like valuable data for these companies who want to figure out what they need to develop to ensure that their community is going to be ravenous about it.
Yeah, they really have created the new PR template for, what we'll refer to as what used to be called the summer blockbuster, right?
Yeah.
That these Marvel movies, and maybe they've fallen on hard times relative to, the earlier ones, but nevertheless, Marvel is still incredibly successful at doing what they do from a communications and a PR perspective of
Yeah.
making the announcement, unleashing it on the world, maximizing what they can control, and then, like you and I said, riding that wave of what comes back from the fans, bobbing and weaving and grabbing that data, grabbing the sentiment, maybe even taking it into account. Who knows, right? What happens behind closed doors?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, to your point, yeah, there has been a little bit of pushback in previous years around, and I think it's less just Marvel specifically, but this concept of like superhero fatigue,
Yeah.
because, the first Iron Man like blew people's minds, but then after the 15th version of that, it's like,
20th
okay,
version. Yeah.
but I will say something about this year, like something about being there at San Diego Comic-Con, it really felt, and obviously that's a very specific, hyper passionate section of the audience, right? When we're talking a global audience, but it really did feel like maybe that fatigue, at least hopefully, I mean, with Deadpool obviously being hugely successful and really taking a unique spin on the superhero films, I think hopefully it's turned a new leaf, and the future iterations of these superhero films will, be a breath of fresh air for folks versus just feeling like they're watching the same thing. And that, again, I'm saying this, obviously that's more of a production thing versus a PR thing, but I'm saying this as a PR person who looks at these and goes, okay, how do you help reinvent telling that story, right? Because you've already told the superhero movie story 800 times. So how do you reinvent that moving forward so that you're changing the minds of the superhero fatigued audience and telling them, no, this is different. This is different.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think it comes down to developing that strong narrative, right? I mean,
Uh,
making sure that you not only know what you want to say, but that you are, I don't want to say giving the fans what they want, but giving the fans something they can latch on to, I guess. Because
yeah.
when they're clawing for something and they don't know which end is up, or they don't know what to think of something, that's probably when they sour the most. And being also a Star Wars fan as well as a Marvel fan, that universe has had the same issues, right? When people see something that they don't like, simply because maybe it doesn't look familiar, feel familiar, they don't know how to wrap their arms around it, they sour on it, and they
Mhm.
just crap all over it on social media, right? How do you take your clients and sort of those lessons, and apply them to what you do? Because you've got clients that are in that, Comic-Con / pop culture space, or at least adjacent to it. What lessons are you learning and applying with your clients?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head with starting with narrative and messaging, right? When we have someone come to us, or a company or person, or even just a project based opportunity, when they come to us, the very first thing I really say is okay, we need to narrow in on what your narrative and messaging is. What is your North Star? What do you want people to be saying about you, your project, whatever it is, in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? Oh yeah, I know about them. They do blah 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 blah. Or I heard about that. That's la la la. Like, we need to have that North Star, but more importantly, we need to have a unanimous way of how we talk about the thing, and then also narrow in on, like, what are those key differentiators, what are those key like messaging points that we can hone in on for individual pitches, or for individual explanations, or to your point with communities or fan bases, like to give them something new, along the way, right? Because you can have kind of a general narrative and messaging, but then you have to really hone in on like, what makes this special? Why should people care? Not just fans and community, but why should a reporter care? Why should their editor care? Why should a publication care? So like, that is honestly sometimes step number one when I work with clients, is like, because they come to us and they're like, we want to get X, Y, or Z. And then I'm like, okay, what, that's fine. What are, like, how do you explain yourself? What differentiates you from other, versions of what you do? And sometimes they're like, I don't know. And then it's like, okay, it's on us then. Throw us the kitchen sink of everything you've done, everything you think you are, your origin story, like throw us the kitchen sink, and then it's on us as the PR professionals to really sift through that and tell a really solid narrative story around this thing, and then hone in on those individual like key messaging points that we could leverage for standalone opportunities outside of just the messaging. So that's, to kind of put a pin on it, that I think is priority number one always with some of our clients. And it always goes back to, okay, what are your goals, right? Who are you trying to reach, and what are your ultimate goals? And then we can kind of hone in on that narrative and messaging based on those factors.
Yeah. And do you continue to use traditional PR tactics along that strategy route, or are you pulling in other types of, because the media landscape has just changed drastically, right?
Oh,
And you said at the top of the show, right? We're not just limited to traditional media, newspaper, radio, TV anymore, even magazines, right? We're all over social. We're all over websites. We're all over blogs. We're wherever the message is.
yeah,
And that's how I tend to think of PR now, is we need to be
you
wherever
have
that
to.
message is, right? And we
Yeah.
need to help craft that message, manage that message. And the way I put it is, we need to write the client's history.
Mhm.
Think about what you want them to think of you 5 years from now. You need to lay that out now, so that you leave those breadcrumbs out now. So when people look back 5 years from now, they find the stuff that we're doing today. Um,
Totally.
you're using all those different methods, across different media. Are you still
I
using
will
press
say
releases?
though, well, so I will say this is an interesting. I'm going to take a quick step back. When I first started Motive, it was because I had always had a deep passion for PR communication, specifically within like working with media, working, on, speaking opportunities, media relations, etc. And so that was really what I focused in on, simply because that was where my passion lied. That was where, I really, it felt like, my heartbeat, like it was like, that was what I loved to do. To be fair though, did and do have a vast marketing experience, right? Like social and paid and everything. So I understand that language, but I gravitated towards PR. And so that's why I started Motive PR. But over the years, it has become crystal clear to me that in order for us to stay ahead of the game and ensure that we're delivering for our clients in the way that they are coming to us and hoping for, you have to expand past that. You can't look at PR through a narrow lens of just these three buckets anymore. It's like, what are all the different touch points, to your point? What are all the different ways in which fans are hearing about this message? And let's be there. Let's figure out how to be there in the most quality way, and in the way that, hopefully is cost effective, but sometimes you have to kind of like spend money to make money. And so, yeah, we are only in the last, I'd say, year and a half, we've really started to kind of expand past the just general PR services into, social media management, creative services, things like that. But I will say, yeah, I mean, even when I was just focusing on PR and my team was just focusing on PR, if a client came to me and said, hey, I just want to put out this press release, can you help me with it? I'd be like, that's the easiest way not to get coverage. Like it
Yeah.
really is. For me, a press release is like the last thing that you do just to ensure you're creating awareness around something. But there's so much more that needs to be done ahead of that press release. in order to actually gain interest from, you know, whatever media you're looking to kind of talk with about whatever story. Because we're in a day and age where journalists and reporters are being inundated by information, and not just on social media. I'm talking emails. They get thousands of pitches a day. And when I say pitches, it's press releases. And so they probably see a press release that was just distributed that morning and just delete it. It doesn't even matter if it was like their beat or something they're interested in, because they're working on 10 other stories and they don't have time to quickly rush out this article about a press release that was put out today. If you want to gain interest with a reporter, you have to reach out to them well in advance of that press release coming out and offer them something interesting or unique tied to this story, right? Whether it's an exclusive or non-exclusive, who knows? But you can like interview, whatever, but be like, this is going to be rolling out, you know, on this date at this time, but I wanted you to be aware of it well in advance, under embargo. We can offer you X, Y, or Z. That is the only way you can use a press release. That's the only way, from my perspective. Just
No,
putting
I
out a
agree.
press release will not work.
I typically say that it's a good exercise to write a press release because it gets you the
Oh,
language.
for sure.
Right? It gets everybody on the same page in terms of, okay, what are we going to say and how are we going to say it? From there, you take that and you do exactly what you explained. You pull that back and you use that to write your pitch. You use that to brainstorm on the specific idea for the specific reporter or the specific outlet. You may attach the release, right, to give background. It's
Totally.
wonderful to have that background. That's really important to a reporter, but you're totally right. You know, when you put out a press release with today's date on it, no one's writing that.
But yeah,
Right. Nothing substantive, right? There may be smaller outlets that sure cut and paste and whatever, and that's totally fine.
but yeah, to your point, press releases are really good for information, and you give it to them in advance.
Yeah,
You should never
right?
have an expectation that, oh, I sent this press release to this reporter this morning. Oh, great. Did you send it out to 100 other reporters? Yeah, that reporter's not going to read it, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you give it to them
A
in
press release is a
advance.
great way to tell a reporter that 100 other reporters also got the same information. Right.
Exactly. Oh my God, I'm going to get that printed on a t-shirt.
That's the truth. It's the truth. Well, all right. So now looking forward, understanding, you know, everything that we just talked about a ton here, rapid fire, but
I love it.
what comes next in the PR landscape? Because like we said, we need to be where the communication, where the message is. What is on the horizon for the next, I'm going to make this up, 18 months, right, in PR?
Yeah.
Is it tradition, given the way that the media just seems to change and morph every 9 months anyway? You know, and PS, we've got an election cycle dropped right in the middle of the next 6 months. Be still my heart.
Oh yeah, that thing.
But yeah, oh, that thing, right? But so where do we go and how do we change with the times? And what are you seeing and how are you going to change with the times?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm about to say a bad word, but one thing that we're really looking in on, and not in the sense of it replacing how we write or how we stay in touch with reporters or how we do anything like that, but I think it's just important because it's not going away. It's important to understand AI. It is. And especially AI within this world, because there is a lot out there, some good, some bad, right? I'm not for it. I'm not against it. I'm just realistic in that it's not going away. So we need to figure out how to integrate it into our business so that we're staying ahead of the game and offering to our clients, you know, valuable opportunities that are ethical, but simultaneously, you know, we're not digging our head into the sand and expecting this to go away, right? So I think AI is going to be a big thing within our world, within our industry, as it is for everybody else. I think looking at PR as just a catch-all for all the different ways that fans can engage with their favorite brand is the way that we should be looking at it, and developing strategies that cater to all of those areas. I think experimental marketing is something that I love so much, right? Like Liquid Death, for example, they do a great job where it was water, for God's sakes. And they have like done some really interesting marketing and narrative development and messaging that has turned them into this like almost pseudo lifestyle brand at this point, right? Like the way that Red Bull did it. So taking those types of case studies and breaking down how they did what they did, and really, I mean, I don't want to like, copy or anything like that, but like I love being inspired. I want to give credit where credit is due. If someone did a phenomenal job at a certain marketing campaign, it's like, let's call it out and let's learn from that. So, long story short, I think that PR is not going to just be, working with reporters, getting speaking ops for your clients, media days, et cetera. It's going to be affiliate partnerships, right? Because that's actually a big thing happening within the media landscape where, for better or worse, and I understand this, there are a lot of publications that are trying to make more money. And so they are turning some of their real estate into paid ops versus earned ops. And so how do you not miss those opportunities while still remaining organic to what your clients' needs are and the fan bases and the publication? So like affiliate partnerships, influencer marketing, I know we hate that term, so we can maybe call it creator marketing, but working with, because also that's another blurry area, right? I know some journalists who are now creators, and I know some creators who now call themselves journalists. And so you're like, that is a fuzzy gray area. How do we look at that holistically and integrate them into our plan, right? So those are kind of areas that are at least important to us, event-based stuff, right? Just coming back from San Diego Comic-Con, feeling inspired by all the different ways that people were having pop-ups and like rebranding, Domino's to be Deadpool Domino, right? It's like those different types of things are really interesting to me. And so in the next 18 months, those are areas that I really want to play with. It's a fun playground. It's an exciting, somewhat scary playground, but a fun playground.
It is definitely a playground, and I agree with you and your sentiment in that PR is not contracting. In fact, it's expanding because
Yeah.
it's moving into all these different areas faster than I think it ever has. And we were all so excited, 10, 15 years ago when social media became part of the PR, set of tools, if you will. But I think we touch everything because, like you and I said, we need to be where the message is. Wherever the message is, we need to be touching it. We need to be helping the clients with it. So yeah, it'll be fun to watch. It'll be fun to watch, and we'll be watching you for sure.
Oh, thank you. Ditto. Yeah, it'll be fun to watch, and hopefully we're all a part of it. We're not just on the sidelines, we're there
Well,
in the
that'll be
game.
fun too. And we will definitely see you at the next Comic-Con, whether it's East Coast or West Coast.
Yes, I mean we have some clients who will be at New York Comic Con, so fingers crossed that I can actually make it out there. But
All right.
either way, Comic Con is it's a forever thing for me for sure.
I'll definitely be there. I hope to see you there. We are not done with you yet, however, Kat. We are going to pivot now into the rapid fire question portion of our
Ooh,
podcast. This
I'm
is where
into
we
it.
steal a page from inside the actor's studio. We ask our guests a series of rapid fire questions meant to elicit a simple answer, maybe a laugh or two. I think we'll get one at least. With your indulgence, Kat, here we go. Rapid fire question number one. What is your favorite news source?
Ooh, okay. I think for entertainment, just because I get their newsletters all the time and I dive right in, Variety, it's kind of a go-to for me. But then also IGN because of the type of folks that we work with. And then if I'm being serious, probably a Washington Post or New York Times.
Very good. Sounds like a healthy diet. Rapid fire question number two. What's your favorite social media platform?
Oh, for better or worse, I'm an Instagrammer. I can't help it. I am a little too active on there, but it's a nice little creative outlet. I call it my creative outlet. My husband might call it something different. He might call it an obsession. It's my creative outlet.
What works, works. Rapid fire
Yeah.
question number three. Coffee or alcohol?
Ooh, coffee for sure. But if it's a Friday evening, you best believe I'm having an espresso martini. So a little bit of both.
There you go. Sounds good to me. Rapid fire question number four. What's your favorite on the run food?
Oh, smoothie for sure. I'm kind of queen of the smoothie. I know I'm at this point I have it down to a science, and I throw a hodgepodge of things in there because I'm like, especially if you're on the go, you can turn it into a meal smoothie all the way.
There you go. You got a favorite flavor or just about whatever?
Yeah, actually, banana peanut butter.
Oh,
Banana. It's more like banana vanilla peanut butter because I throw in some vanilla protein powder, frozen bananas. Here, I mean, I'll tell you, frozen bananas, vanilla protein powder, peanut butter, blend it. That's it. It's simple and it's so good.
Nice. All right, I'm going to try that one. Rapid fire question number 5. Kat, what do you want to be after you finish this career?
Ooh. Well, this is going to sound very cheesy, but I find myself having these moments as I've gotten more and more confident in myself and in my career. I just write things down sometimes where I'm like, could I motivate others? So, in some far off, distant, alternate reality, maybe, a motivational speaker of sorts, but I also am super active. So, being like a spin instructor or something, which is like a blend of it, right? It's being active while motivating
I was going to
others.
say those fit nicely together.
Yeah. So maybe the two, but I still laugh out loud at the fact that it's going to be some alternate reality because I'm no Tony Robbins, but who knows?
Well, it sounds good to me. Kat, this has been a great conversation. Please let people know how they can find you online.
Sure. Yeah. They can go to Motiv's website, MotivPR.com. We're also on Facebook /MotivPR or Instagram @MotivPR. And I'm also on Instagram @TheKatJones, TheKatJones.
We will put all the links in the show notes. Kat, thanks for joining us today. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok @ThePR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Apple. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram @Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online @Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web @jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.